today during our video of women in military life, to have Constance Cotton, who is the author of On the Battlefield, which is about women in the military suffering from PTSD. She will be our interviewer this afternoon. Constance?
Yes, Selena, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Selena Kanowitz, retired Master Sergeant, United States Air Force Reserve, and also the commander, first female in the state of New Jersey in over 100 years, of the Jewish War Veterans, Post 126.
May, please introduce yourself.
My name is May Brill. I am a World War II veteran. I'm 94 years old. I'm honorary commander of our Post 126, the Jewish War Veterans.
Julia, please introduce yourself.
My name is Julia Coker-Washington. I'm retired Master Sergeant from the 913th Air Wing, and I served there proudly in the medical squadron, and I'm retired.
Yes, so Selena,
Yes.
why did you join the military?
I wanted to become a doctor, and due to family circumstances was not able to afford that. I was a teacher for 4 years, and I learned that if I was accepted into the medical school on my own, which I was not able to afford, that the Air Force would take care of me. So I went ahead and joined. They had me trained in the X-ray department. So I became an X-ray tech for the next 21 and a half years. Now I am presently a nuclear medicine technologist for the past 39 years. I'm very happy in that capacity, may I add.
Thank you. Julia, did you face any types of oppression while in the military?
Not when you say oppression, what do you mean? As a female? Or?
As a female, like whether it's racism, discrimination, things of that sort.
Outside of Dr. Simmons and my weight problem, because I was lifting weights at the time, and muscle weighed more than fat. Outside of that, no. I had a pretty good 25 some odd years in the 913th Air Wing. I enjoyed the camaraderie. I enjoyed learning the medical elements, because as a young person, I wanted to be a nurse. So I basically learned the basics of I guess you'd say a licensed practical nurse. You know, how to draw blood and, do EKGs. It was, I'll just put it like this, it was a very interesting learning experience for me, and I would do it over again.
Thank you.
It was a good unit, very good unit.
Thank you. So I experienced oppression by sometimes, the males that were around me, would make me feel as if I was not good enough. And I dealt with military sexual trauma.
Wow.
While being in the military, and it really just changed my view of, what it was to be a woman in the military.
You know why? I don't think I experienced it because I went in at age 34. How old were you when you went in? Young?
I was 20.
Yeah, you were young.
Yes. Well, thank you.
35, yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Well, May, can you share your experience of being in during World War II?
I joined the WAVES, which is Women's Auxiliary Volunteer Emergency Service, that later became the Navy. But women in the time were the Army, Navy, and Marines were not really that part of the service. They were auxiliary part. Anyhow, I was sent to California, where I was only 9 women that were Jewish, that were in 400 women. And we supplied the Pacific Fleet and the Pacific bases all the 2 years that I was in the service. Because I was in the service, I was allowed to go to college. And Therefore, I stood in line at Temple University, and the girl in front of me turned around and said I was in the WACS, which was the Women's Army Corps. And she said, would you like to go out with my boyfriend and I? And that's how I met my husband. I was married to him for 39 years, and he passed with cancer. And at that time, I had 4 daughters, and I am now having 11 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren.
Oh, that's awesome,
Yeah.
May. Thank you so very much. So, Selena,
Yes.
did you enjoy basic training?
I loved basic training, and yours truly was appointed the dorm chief in charge of 45 other girls. So I was the only Jewish girl in the entire group, but when I did go to my Sabbath services, usually on Friday night, I would bring along with me 8 or 9 more girls that were very interested. I think really they enjoyed the, not just the camaraderie and prayer, but the wine and the brownies and learning about the different culture.
Food.
The confidence course was a lot of fun. And my drill instructor, who happened to be a man and very respectful, I was his right arm person. And the one thing that I do remember is that his dorm chief did not ever do KP duty.
Wonderful. Thank
So
you.
it was enjoyable.
Thanks a lot,
Mhm.
Selena. So, Julia.
Did I enjoy basic training?
Yes.
At my age, I found it interesting. I ended basic training from teaching at the YMCA, which I taught from 1986 to 2009. And so I was physically fit, and I had to drag some of those little young girls around when we did the confidence course. They made me the dorm guard monitor. I didn't appreciate the fact that back then they would take smoking breaks, right? And those of us who didn't smoke had to stay in. So I decided I'm not going to stay in. Y'all go outside, and I went out with them.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. I enjoyed my time in basic training. You know, to be around so many people from different walks of life, and to really have the self-confidence to do all the requirements. I was in the best shape of my life. I really thought that it was an awesome experience. Yeah, so May.
When I told you that I was at Hunter College for our basic training, we learned a lot of things. Don't forget, this is World War II. We learned about the different ships, airplanes, and the different guns, all the same things that the men at that time were being trained in. And then we went to Milledgeville, Georgia, and we learned all the things that we needed to learn about the Supply Corps.
Yes. Well, Selena, can you share with us what you did in the military?
I was the X-ray technician in charge of the Department of X-ray. And then as the stripes went on, and actually I have to share with you that I made rank so quickly, I moved up 3 ranks, that instead of stitching on my rank, I used double back tape, because it was switching so much that I didn't want to be permanent until it was really permanent, for a little while anyway, because that was a lot of work. But with each stripe came 20 more duties. And I ended up being in charge of 7 different areas, which I was not familiar with, so I had to research those, find out about them, because I was also responsible for writing their peer reports. And I found that very interesting. There was a lot of learning going on, and I really loved it.
Yes, thank you. So, Julia, what did you do in the military?
I started out as a 4FOX, which is a term for people who work with the flight medicine. We worked under a flight surgeon. We basically made sure that the flying crew was worldwide duty qualified. We would deploy with them when they went away to different places. After moving up a little bit, I became superintendent of air medical services. And then, because I had a good commander and things didn't quite work out for the we were having to do EMT, and you had to train with EMTs. I went to Oregon to train, and the testing that they give you to qualify to be an EMT certified to ride on ambulances even in the city, because if I'd have qualified I could have done that. I passed the Air Force's test with an 80, but I didn't pass the EMT. So my commander, who was Colonel Ginter, she was the first female commander we had, she allowed me to cross-train as a dietetic technician. And let me explain, you didn't ask me why I joined. I don't know if you asked them why I joined the military. They joined, but I joined because I love my country. I've always wanted to be in the military, and had it not been for Sandra Bullfuller, I would have been in the Army. My brother was in the Army, and father was in the Army. And I'm glad I was able to be a part of the best branch of the military, the United States Air Force. Aim high, that's our motto.
So I was a medical logistics sergeant, and we were responsible for making sure all the units had their medical supplies, their biomedical needs, and their eyeglasses. And I really enjoyed my job because making sure that the hospitals were taken care of, to ensure that the soldiers had what they needed was very important. And I joined the military because my dad served during the Korean War era, and I've always looked up to him. And I wanted to travel and have some adventure in my life. And also,
That gives it to you.
I went into a boarding school in 6th grade, which was Scotland School for Veterans Children. So I was already used to being in a structured environment. So why did you join the military, Selena?
Well, my father also was an Army veteran, Purple Heart. My grandfather worked for the government. My brother was in the Navy. My mother worked for the government. And like Julia, I love my country as well. And
God
being
bless you.
patriotic and very proud, I wanted to be part of it. And I love, as you can see, wearing my uniform, even retired since 1998.
Right.
And it still fits.
May, why did you join the military?
Well, I had a brother who was in the Army, and I felt as though I was patriotic. It's my country also, and therefore I wanted to be part of it. And since I was someone who had 7 children in the family, and I was second oldest, I wanted to show the other children that we are doing for our country the way it should be done.
Yes. And as a woman in the military, for me, it was very hard to be a mother and a soldier. Because duty comes first. So a lot of times I had to leave my children with whether it's my husband or relatives, so I can go out to perform my job or go TDY to different states for a long period of time without my children. So there's a lot of sacrifice that goes on. And I hear that veterans struggle with estranged relationships sometimes when they come back, because we don't come back the same.
Yes.
Nope.
And
That's
our
true.
family members don't know how to handle that.
That's true.
Can people, like,
That's
can you
true.
share?
I
about
remember
that?
when I was activated to Japan, and my children were young. They were less than 5 years old. My husband had that sole responsibility, and all I heard was, when is she coming home? When is she coming home?
Today, you have a lot of different ways of serving your country in the service. But at that time, women were not accepted in the military, and therefore they were given jobs like the Supply Corps that I was in. And we supplied the Pacific Fleet and the Pacific bases, but we also worked with the men in the supply depot alongside of them. We did the same kind of work. We stood watch. And when we came home, when I went to work, I was not given the same kind of salary that men were given. Women at that time were not really recognized at the same level as men in any kind of work that you do. So that was a difficult time for women. Today, you ladies who are younger have fought for the things that you get today. And we had a lot of things that we had to fight. We also had to fight against discrimination. If you wanted to get somewhere, you had to do some kind of sexual things that many women are today are saying, me too.
I want to address
And
that.
at that time, it was very quiet and people didn't talk about it. You just did what you had to do to get us up. Today, women are saying, me too, and women are saying, yes, I can do it.
Every year, Temple University has have women veterans seminars. It's a very well attended thing. But one of the main things the women discuss is the sexual abuse that they have experienced.
Yeah.
One woman, she brought out during one of our sessions something she held on to for years, and the abuse that she experienced,
Right.
and the fact that a lot of the abuse is coming from the commanders or people who are over, and they have to go and serve under these people. So women are still being sexually abused. They're still. The Me Too hasn't really. I don't think the Me Too has caught on in the military. I also want to address the suicide rate. It's horrible.
Mhm.
Now there's so many young people killing themselves,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
and they don't. I mean, they're fighting a war. They don't even know what they're fighting for. A lot of them.
Yes, you're right. I think the statistics today states 18 to 22 veterans commit suicide daily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Selena, do you have something to say?
Yes. In the earlier times, women who were known to become pregnant were automatically dismissed from the military. And also, I believe during May's time, they were not even allowed to
Yes.
be married.
That's right.
But nowadays, when I was still in, I know that they were providing for women that were pregnant. That's the difference in the changes over the years, where they were providing maternity uniforms, and
Yeah.
they were offering them jobs
Yeah.
where they didn't have to be
Stressed
physically
out.
active, stressed out. Correct.
Mhm.
And also, as opposed to the earlier times, the women are now allowed to participate in combat. They're flying the aircraft,
Mhm.
and they're exceptional. Women are exceptional.
Mhm.
And the men are really, really respecting them in those positions. In
Mhm.
fact, when they had the invasion in Beirut, Lebanon,
Mhm.
that the United States won, that was led by a female.
All right.
And we were very proud of that.
May I say?
Yes.
There, a woman that was a pilot of an airplane that was just on fire, and she got
Oh,
all the
yeah.
people down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She was a veteran, and let me tell you, she helped all those people save their
Yes.
lives.
Yes.
Yes.
The best
Absolutely.
man for the job is the woman.
I would just like to say, as a honorary commander of our veterans post, we do so much to help, and we try our best for men and women that are veterans of the military that
Okay.
need help today. We don't realize that women had lost their legs, women lost their arms
Sure.
in the military, and they don't think that women are the ones
In
that get hurt.
combat, yeah.
But we do have so many brave women that have problems. We have women that they are homeless, and we try, as a veteran, helping the people that have problems that came from this being in the service. So your job is never done. You take your uniform off and you still serve in the service.
But
Yes.
the VA does not address women's issues like I think they should, especially the VA hospital in Philadelphia. They have
Yeah.
a time limit when women can go and have their issues addressed, especially women who were once in the reserves.
Would you believe it was just in the paper 2 days ago about our country? Our government doesn't even take care of the VA
Yeah.
problems with the women.
Fortunately, we have many organizations of volunteers that do help the veterans, male and female. And if it wasn't for the volunteers, I think there'd be a big problem.
Yeah.
Yes, I think society needs to help active military women as well as veterans because we have hidden disabilities, right? So sometimes society, will determine if you're disabled, based on losing a limb or whatever. But what about traumatic brain injuries and PTSD and the suppression of being violated, as women in the military,
Yeah.
where you don't have a
Sexual
voice
abuse,
because you're
yeah.
in a male dominant organization.
Right.
So there is a
Absolutely.
lot of work that needs to be done.
Yes.
Yes.
Speaking of that, how was your experience in Desert Storm?
My experience in Desert Storm, I was stateside, but I had just 3 weeks post-trauma because I had lost a 28-week pregnancy. And immediately I was activated for Desert Storm. So it was traumatizing, and they diagnosed me with PTSD. I was emotionally drained, but on the flip side of the coin, it did help me because I was with people that I didn't know who couldn't ask me questions. It was a strengthening tool for me. A definite learning experience. I met some interesting people. We did very, very bizarre, strange things, bringing home the people who had actually been in the combat zone. And it was a tearjerker, but a wonderful experience.
So I was actually in Desert Storm, stationed in Riyadh and Dhahran, and I came back very sick. And years later, the VA finally said that we were exposed to Gulf War illness or Gulf War syndrome, which is a lot of symptoms that doctors cannot pinpoint where they derive from, but a lot of Desert Storm veterans have died from it.
Unnecessarily.
Yes.
May I say something about World War II? The veterans that came back, the men and the women that came back, many of them never talked about because it was so traumatic
Horrors.
for them. Today is such a different world. And the thing is, we have learned that we're veterans of the past to help the veterans that are today.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I live for.
Not only that, I think young people should have a sense of pride in this country. Just like they're proud because the Eagles won
That's
after all those years. They ought to be proud about their country. It gives them a sense of worth. It gives them a sense of pride. It being in the military is really, it gives you a whole new aspect on life because you get a whole new career. You meet people, you go places. I mean, I never would have met Selena if I hadn't joined the military.
Yes.
And what they have to understand, especially in basic training, is everyone comes from a diverse
Yes.
culture.
Yes.
But what the military does
Makes you draw
is
together.
strip everybody and start them together.
Yeah.
So they grow up together to be a unit. When they leave basic training, everybody has everybody's six, everybody's back.
Yeah.
And whether you like me or you don't like me, we're at war together, we're living together. And I always felt that when we were on active duty, that was my second family. That I always had someone
We were.
to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, to work with, to fight with,
The
to argue with,
9/13.
to help and work together. And that was a wonderful
Yeah, it
experience.
was.
Absolutely. And I had the opportunity to visit different religious services in the military. So, we don't have this divisiveness, but a togetherness, And when you say, like, we all come together from diverse backgrounds, it's not only, from an ethnic perspective, but religious, social, economic. I mean, you name it, it's there.
Yep.
But we learn to work as a cohesive team. And sometimes when we leave the military and we come back into society and it's so much division, it's hard for veterans to assimilate because we're used to embracing
Got
one
your
another.
back, yeah.
May I just say one thing about a veteran from years and years ago? That you meet people and you make friends for the rest of your life. And your friends become your children's aunts and uncles. And they grow up together with these people that you met while you were in the military.
So Julia, how do you feel that the military is moving forward?
I think that there are things they could do to make it better for the outreach to young people. You know, young people need to they need to feel a pride. I don't think young people are being spoken to the way that they need to be, because a whole lot of mothers don't want their children to go in the military, and for whatever reasons, I think that it's detrimental to the country. Plus,
I just feel like we need more discipline in this country,
Yes.
and the military is number one
Yes.
for discipline
and respect.
and respect. There, it's great for leadership. My son, who was when he was at Penn State, who's just graduated a year ago, was in the ROTC for 2.5 years. He was very disciplined, but the one thing that he did learn was leadership. He didn't complete his training in the ROTC for the simple reason that he felt that there is a lot going on. Some of the leaders that are in charge of the group are not strong leaders, and they're not communicating with their young people, which is why they're not bringing them in. There's a lot of nonsense going on,
Yeah,
and
there is.
they're being sued. As was spoken earlier, people are being harassed by their senior officers. The women that are going in are sex symbols like they were years ago, and they're fighting that with
Yeah.
these movements, but it has a long way to go.
Yes.
Yes, and I have spoken to many veterans that have a mistrust for the government because they realize that the things that they fought for during the war was
Nothing
really about
that.
greed.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And they had to fight for their benefits when they came home. And that's a
Still
part
are
of
fighting.
why so many veterans are committing suicide or,
Yes.
drinking and drugging because they feel like
Let
the
down.
government has
Let 'em down,
betrayed
yeah.
them.
May I say?
Sure.
Today, the young people that are going in from high school need to have some groups behind them to say, yes, you're going away, but we are here for you. The women have to learn to speak up.
Yeah,
And that's
results.
one of the big things that we have to train the young people, that maybe not even in the service, but in life, that they have to speak up.
Yeah.
I would like to say something in conclusion, that women are great multitaskers. We can handle the home, we can perform in the military, and this is about women. We can do it.
Yes. Politics.
Please,
That's
everyone,
part of it.
rise. Attention. Present arms. Order, arms.
I want to thank Constant Cotton creating and letting us realize what women experienced on the battlefield with her book On the Battlefield that I'm looking forward to reading. Thank you so much.
I have been to different groups that speak about women and the military and their abuse, and Constance and I met at one of them, and all I could say is it's a good beginning. Women will fight for their rights from now on.
I would like to say thank you to all the women who were part of this video today, and especially Constance for her wonderful job of the interview. Thank you very much. It was so much fun.
I want to thank my sister comrades for this time of sharing our stories and connecting in a way that is very meaningful to me.
I'd like to play a little bit of a rendition, if I may.
Yes.
This is Barry, who rides around in my car every day. He's my security detail. So,
That's my song too. That's my song. That was
and women,
and that was
and
vote.
women.
That was a vote call when they called us in the audience to the auditorium.